Hi, everyone. I am back and we are going to go into the expenditures section of the financial report. And we ended at income and your FY24 projected TAMI, and you needing to send us documentation to show that TAMI. And then there were a bunch of totals. Save and then go to next to get to the next page. Or you can also click on the section you're looking for over here. So we are in part 1 of expenditures. And as a reminder, this is not a balance sheet. So your expenditures do not have to add your income, equal your income. We are looking for what you spent to run your library last year. So expenditures part 1, section G, this is your FY23 total personnel expenditures. And this is paid from the library's total operating budget. So this is your municipal appropriation, but it is also any of that other money, including state aid, including the Friends, including endowments. So if you pay salaries from any of those categories, that all counts as the library's total operating budget. So G1 is salaries. So you would just tell how much you paid in salaries last year, and then how much you paid in benefits that the library paid for benefits. This is an important distinction. And so I'm going to just hit this question mark to pull up the definition. Benefit expenditures paid from the library budget for the prior fiscal year. This is outside of wages and salaries. And so it's stuff like Social Security, retirement, medical insurance, life insurance, disability, unemployment compensation, workers' comp. Those are not usually paid from the library's operating budget. And we have a separate category for where that's located. So unless your library pays that, some association libraries do, you're not including that here. But what you might have are other things like tuition reimbursement, longevity payments, professional dues if you have people sign up for, MLA memberships or ALA, NELA, travel for professional purposes, if you send them to trainings or conferences, conference expenses, union dues, and union-related services. So there are other things that count as benefits that you might be paying for. So we want you to pull those out and put them here. And when you do that, that will help reduce the amount of money you need to spend on your materials expenditure. So salaries and then benefits, and you'll notice that it's calculated here for you from your library's total operating budget. So again, that's your municipal appropriation plus all of those other funds. Then we have more information on retroactive salaries. So how much did you spend on retroactive salaries? Pop this up. The salary and wages for all types of staff employed at the library paid through the library board. And so this is for the prior year. So this would be FY22 retro salaries. And when we did the income, you would record the income that you got to pay those salaries. And then you report the actual expenditure. And the retroactive benefits, same category as above. And then that's totaled up. Then we get into salaries and benefits, but these are the ones that are paid by another town department. So for salaries, this would include anything that is centralized. So if DPW pays for your custodian, or you share an IT person, or somebody from town does the web design, whatever those are, if you can get those salaries, you would put them here. And I'm going to flag this as a reminder that we need to go find this number. Then this benefits category is all of those other things, the taxes, not the taxes, but the Social Security, right, taxes, retirement, medical insurance, life insurance. This number you should be able to get from your town or your city. They know what the total benefits package is to employees, but whether or not you can actually get it, whether or not they're able to get it to you in time, or they're not used to doing it and don't want to provide it. The best thing is for you to actually get that information and say something like, I get this info from Julie. She needs 2 weeks lead time. So that note will then go into your thing next year. And when you do this next year, you can be, oh, right, Julie will get me that information, but she can't just magically pull it out of the air. This is a required number, and it is something that is sent up to the federal government. So if you can't get this number, what we need you to do is take your salaries expense up here and multiply it by 25% and put that benefit number here. So that is the 25% is what the federal government says is the average or acceptable calculation for the cost of benefits from salaries. So please do that math for us if you can't get it from your town or city. So here's salaries, 25% of that is benefits here. Then you'll get your total personnel expenditures. So it's going to do the retro, the paid by other departments, and what you paid from your budget. H is FY23 stipend expenditures. This is a very narrow definition. So this is for library directors in Western Mass who volunteer their time and get a small stipend in return. This is like $500, $800, that kind of thing. So that will not go into salary because it doesn't meet the federal minimum wage requirement, but we do want to see if there is a stipend happening. So if you're not a volunteer director in Western Mass, you don't put anything here. You may pay people other stipends for things, like if you're doing a second job for the town or something and you're getting a stipend, or if you pay someone extra money for stepping up to fill in while someone's out on leave, that would all go into salaries, not in as a stipend, because we're just looking for that stipend expenditure for volunteers. Then we get into the materials expenditure, and this is very detailed because we want you to be able to meet this requirement. And so we have a bunch of different categories so that it jogs your mind to, oh, right, we bought this stuff. Ideally, you will be keeping track of your invoices or, the way you are ordering things, however you do this work in your library, so that you don't have to scramble at the end of the year to figure out if you're meeting your expenditure. So this is paid from your library's total operating budget. So again, you can use state aid money for this. You can use, if the Friends give you money, you can use endowment money, whatever income you have, plus the municipal appropriation. So you have books in print. This is your traditional print books, print serial subscriptions. So if you buy, Boston Globe, if you buy Time Magazine, what the cost of those subscriptions are, audio and video, that physical stuff in your library. Network membership fees for e-content. So when you're in a network, you pay them whatever your fee is, $20,000, $70,000. There is some portion of that is used for e-content. Each network does it a little bit differently. So we can't help you figure out what your exact number is, but your network can. So for some, it's based on a percentage. For others, it's a straight fee based on your population. So you want to make sure you include that because the networks provide a lot of e-content. Then any ebooks and downloadable audio and video that you buy on top of that. So if you add things or, you do that Advantage program where you can add on to Overdrive or anything else that you might buy for those formats. Then materials accessed electronically. So these would be things like video games, CD-ROMs. There's lots of stuff up here, some examples. So you could do, I'm trying to see here. If you circulate switch cartridges. If you buy software for computers, you could put that here for patron use. So materials accessed electronically would go here. Then we have electronic collections and databases. So these are things like Hoopla, Creative Bug, Ancestry, any sort of language learning software that patrons can log in with their library cards. Those costs go here. And then other materials. So if you hit this question mark, it pops up with some examples. So this is where you would include your museum passes if you pay for them. Computer software used by patrons, so that actually would go here and not up above. So if you buy, Adobe Professional, whatever, Adobe Creative for your public computers for people to use when they come in, you can count that. Puppets, tools, fishing rods, all of your library of things items can go here. If you have hotspots, the cost of your hotspot can go here. So the cost of the device itself. So this is sort of a catch-all for those other random things that aren't up above. And this is what is paid for from the library's operating budget. Make sure you hit save here. There's a lot of data entry on this page. And then you go to the next page. And now it's the same categories, but it's paid on behalf of the library by other groups. So if your friends buy museum passes and they pay for them, they get the invoices themselves. If they do that, then that's on this page. If you have a library foundation that does fundraising for materials and they pay for them, that's where you would put it in here. So books in print serial subscriptions, audio, video again, network membership fees, ebooks, materials accessed electronically, electronic collections and databases, and other materials. And so here you include museum passes here if they're paid for by the friends directly. You would include museum passes in the other section if the library pays the bill. And then that will total that up for you. And then we have a special section called Technology for Direct Patron Use. And this is a special sort of program that started maybe 6 years ago, in recognition of the fact that, if you lend laptops or ebook readers, or you're buying all this digital material, but you have, you still have your computers, that there is a cost to the library for supporting these kinds of technological things. So you are allowed to spend 10% of your requirement, your materials requirement, on technology for direct patron use. So if you're using hotspots, there is a monthly fee that goes along with those. So you can use that hotspot fee here. If you lease a scanner and the scanner does something special for patrons, it can, read microfilm, or it sends emails, it has to do more than just scan, you can put the fees for leasing here. You can also use the cost if you buy it outright, up to 10%. So if your materials budget is $70,000, you can spend $7,000 on technology for direct patron use. If you buy new public computers that access the internet and they can do things, you can use up to 10% on that. If you I'm trying to think of some other things. Let me just pull it up. New computers or laptops with internet access. So you can't count public, just the OPACs. You can't include self-service machines. You can't include anything that's just for staff. So that's all just operational. You can't include wireless technology in your library because that's an operational expense. Monitors, keyboards, headphones, printer copiers. If you buy a new microfilm reader, all of those things for patron use, directly for patron use, you can include that up to 10%. And that is the end of the materials requirement section. And then we move on to the other expenditures. And we don't have a ton of categories here. We just want to get a sense of what it costs to run your library, but you're going to have lots of different categories, and we just kind of need you to fit the rest of it in here. We ask a lot of things for materials and less for everything else. So other expenditures that come from your operating expenses. So how much did you spend on building your operating budget? How much did you spend on building maintenance? So this could be keep the building in an existing state. You can include repairs. So if you have, you pay someone to come in and fix your elevator if it's broken, or your stairs, you can count that here. If you have some walls painted or you have water damage, that doesn't get to the sort of cost or size of a capital program, you can put that here. If you pay for supplies for, your janitor or custodian to use, that can go here. Energy costs, gas, electric, and oil. This is centralized in some places, and other places, libraries pay that directly. Other utilities, so this could be things like your telephone bill, your cable, your internet service. If you pay water, sewer, if you pay someone to remove trash. I worked somewhere once where we had to pay for our own snow removal. So actually snow removal would go under building maintenance, not other utilities. So then the rest of your network membership. So remember in the previous section, you included the part of your membership that is for e-content there. And then this is the rest of it. So we want you to report your total network membership, but just separate out the e-content. Programming expenditures. So this could be supplies. So if you're buying craft materials, if you are buying puppets that are used just for programming, you wouldn't include those as materials, but if they're used for programming, so you would include them here. You can count vendors. So if you're paying for a magician to come to the library, you can do that here. So there are lots of different things that you might spend on programming. And this, if the friends gave you $5,000 for the summer reading program to spend, you would include that here. Not the $5,000, but how you spent it. And then other is the other random stuff. So we have tons of examples, but you might have other examples of things in here. So supplies used to prepare library materials for circulation. So if you do barcodes and covers yourself, that counts as a supply. If you buy your books shelf ready, that cost can be incorporated into your materials. Just do what's on that invoice. But if you're trying to save money by, doing that work in-house, it's an other expense. Postage, supplies used by staff, insurance, cleaning supplies, paper goods, exclude maintenance, energy, utilities, network membership, and programming that you already did above. So this other is pretty much everything else. Then we have other expenditures, capital. So I'm actually going to skip this one for a second. So you've got your capital outlay. So this is for the acquisition of or addition to fixed assets, such as new equipment, initial book stock, furnishings, new vehicles. So that would be a capital outlay. Then there is construction. Expenditures during the prior fiscal year for the acquisition of or addition to fixed assets such as building sites, new buildings, building addition, and planning and design fees. So there are two different types of things. And then there's the other. So this is stuff that doesn't fit in either of those two categories that your town or city counts as capital. So that would be something you would have to work on with them if you have that other category. And that would be a really good spot to leave yourself a note so you know why you put that there. Then we get into other expenditures, so the same categories, but that are paid by another town department. So building maintenance, say your custodian is shared and they that other department pays the fees for that. Try and get how much that, say, DPW spends. Or I once shared a custodian with the police department. So the police department bought the supplies and that kind of stuff. How much did your town spend on energy? So you can see here in Abington, the town pays for that energy cost. Other utilities paid for by the town. So say your town or city pays for the entire city's buildings internet. That would be here. If you have an IT department and they pay network membership fee directly, you could put that here, but usually that network membership fee is paid by the town or city. And then other, so the same categories. And then you'll get your total other expenditures. And we'll go to the next page. And then this is expenditures part 3, and it's a nice page because you don't actually have to do anything. So it's going to pull together all of the information that you have put in. So your benefits, your salaries, your print materials expenditures, your electronic, other materials, your total collection expenditures, other operating, total operating from library budget only. So it's just a bunch of math. So occasionally people will see something here and they don't understand like where a number came from. So it's good to look at these totals and see. All right, and then we are on the additional information section. So I'm going to do it here, and then I'm going to do the submission separately. So the additional information is stuff that's not financial, but we want it reported at some point. And one of those is the 2023 calendar year summer reading. So because everyone in Massachusetts is on a fiscal year and the fiscal stuff starts July 1st, but summer reading often starts in June and goes into August. So we want to see what the calendar year totals are. Did you host a summer reading program? Yes or no? And then how many young children participated? And when we say participated, this is referring to how many kids signed up for your summer reading program in these age groups. We expanded this year to match the programming questions on the ARIS. So there are a few more to answer in the age groups. So how many young kids participated? How many children 6 to 11 participated? How many young adults participated in your current calendar year summer reading program? So again, that is registrations, or if they all attended a kickoff, however you mark participation. And then how many adults participated if you had a program for adults. This is not where you include attendance at individual programs. Those numbers are included. The June numbers would have been in the ARIS that you did this summer, and then your July and August attendance numbers will be in your ARIS that you start next summer. So that's why we're not asking program questions here, but we do want to get a sense of how many people participated in the summer program. And then the other question we ask is, how do you primarily use your state aid? So here are a bunch of categories, or you could do other, and please give us examples of how you use your state aid. We use this in our attempts to get more money for state aid. We use these to understand the depth of the program. I used to be a library director, and one of my libraries didn't give me enough money for my materials. So I had to use all of my state aid money to buy materials to qualify for the state aid money. And that's not a rare thing. And then other libraries save it for construction projects, or, to do some cool programming or however. So we like to get a sense of how it's used. So please tell us. And then I'm going to stop here and stop this recording, and I will be back in a few.